All right, guys. I know you guys been on the edge of your seat for this. Everybody's favorite segment. Still, it's time to break down the matchups of the week for week number 2. So, let's kick things off with the first game of the week. We had one team that came very close but had a very disappointing loss. Going up against the guy who put up the most points for week 1. I'm talking about Andre taking on Lewis. So I'm going to quickly go through the players on each team, who they're matched up against, and then I'm going to break down the keys to victory, meaning what do these guys need to do in order to pull out a victory. I've written a few notes down for these ones. So Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. Now, quick take on this. I actually don't like the Saints this week going into the road. That's just me personally. I just don't think they're going to be that explosive for one, and I'm not pulling the road card for Drew Brees. I actually think that the Giants are loaded at the secondary spot, and granted, it could have been Dak Prescott, but Dez Bryant didn't do anything. He only had maybe one catch, maybe, but anyway, I just think that Aaron Rodgers in the second half against Minnesota kind of like pours it on him. I think in the first half it's something close, say like 14-7, but I just don't think Sean Hill can put together drives, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have a really good game. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Aaron Rodgers in the quarterback department there. Des Bryant and Chris Hogan versus Julio Jones and Alshon Jeffrey. Now, this is like the biggest difference maker in this matchup. I mean, there's really not much to talk about. I said Alshon Jeffrey would finish top 5 this week. Julio Jones, if he's going to be out there, is also going to be having a good game. Sean Smith got benched last week. And now, if he's still there, it's either going to be him or David Amerson. Now, Amerson's a little underrated, but he is nowhere near the talent level of Julio Jones. These guys alone could probably carry Andre's team to victory this week, so that's why I'm putting that there. Chris Hogan is a guy, we don't know exactly what is going to happen with him yet. I mean, he did score, and it is against Miami, so the matchup is there. But I'm Des Bryant. I don't know if this was Washington. He's got to capitalize. DeMarco Murray and Justin Forsett taking on Adrian Peterson and Carlos Hyde. Um, Speaking of guys who need to step up, Adrian Peterson had a big dud last week. He needs to turn it around again this week, but they're probably going to see a stacked box again. I know in his career he hasn't been that bad against Green Bay, but I just, Stephon Diggs isn't really much of a threat to the Packers defense, and I just think that they key on Adrian Peterson, but I will say that he's probably going to meet the projections at least this week. Now we're going to talk about Carlos Hyde because on week 1 he's so fucking good. But he's not going to do anything against the Carolina Panthers this week. I think he comes crashing back down to earth yet again, just because I think the matchup is too real. San Francisco is going into a pissed off Carolina Panthers team that was a field goal away from winning that game. I do not like any 49er at all this week, which is probably every week, but hey. On the other side, DeMarco Murray looks like he's going to get the increased volume, which is why Derrick Henry for now is on the bench. I'd say Murray gets like 70% of the touches in that one. The defense in Detroit is not a scary matchup by any means. I actually think that Murray goes over his projections, but not by a lot. I think Murray is like a 13 to 15 point week against Detroit. Justin Forsett, matchup looks beautiful. I just don't know about Justin Forsett. But if he is to do something here, that is a really good thing for Justin Forsett because he probably then becomes the workhorse yet again. But I don't know. So when I'm looking at the running back matchups here, man, because I don't know about Forsett's thing, I think it's a draw for the running backs. Greg Olsen and Travis Kelce. Greg Olsen by a landslide. Brandon Cooks and Michael Crabtree taking on Alan Hearns and Ryan Matthews. Okay. Brandon Cooks had a 30-point game last week. Fantastic game. Fantastic game. It was amazing to see that. I don't think he has that type of explosiveness in this one. I actually think that he has one of his like 14-point games, which is fine. Michael Crabtree, though, I do see finding the end zone in this one, and I do see a decent game out of him. But if you look at the flip side, though, for Lewis, Allen Hurns, I put in my booms column, meaning that I think he will score this week. Ryan Matthews, though, needs a touchdown in this one to make this matchup close. So here are my keys to victory. For Andre, the two difference makers in the keys to victory column are Julio Jones and Alshon Jeffrey. I think both of them are going to go off, like, by a lot. The things that I think on Andre's team that'll probably be really good as well would be Greg Olsen and Michael Crabtree due to the matchups, because in Atlanta, Desmond Trufant most likely is going to have to be on Amari Cooper. And other than the touchdown to Mike Evans, Trufant pretty much covered him pretty well last week. So I'm going to take that into effect. How does Lewis win this game? He needs his guys to step up. That includes Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers needs to outperform Drew Brees. That's number one. Number two, Ryan Matthews needs to find a touchdown. I like Ryan Matthews, but it looks like he's going to be touchdown dependent at this point. With Kenjon Barner and Darren Sproles, he's touchdown dependent. You need that Ryan Matthews TD against the Bears. Dez Bryant has to be Dez Bryant, and Allen Hurns needs to hit. Well, because I think there's a lot more stuff that has to happen to Lewis, I'm going to take Andre in this matchup. I do think Lewis's team, though, fights very valiantly and actually puts up a solid week, though. But because of Julio Jones and Alshon Jeffrey, the firepower is too much. Give me Andre. All right, our next matchup of the week. Sorry, I was sipping some coffee. And speaking of coffee, we got Rob Coffee. Take it on Brian Bonney. Both starting 0-1 to start off the season. Rob Coffey did not meet his projections at all last week. Brian, obviously with the injury to Keenan Allen, this changes things a little bit. I've been informed by one of the owners that these lineups are not set in stone, and I understand that. It's only Thursday, guys. And I think there might be some question marks on the other end as well. So I'm just going to probably quickly break through the guys that I think are going to start, and then I'll break down the keys to victory. Joe Flacco and Blake Bortles. Joe Flacco has an amazing matchup this week. I understand that. Blake Bortles, though, at San Diego, I might have Blake Bortles on a slight edge there. Say like by 7 points. I don't think it'll be anything to change the outcome of the game, but I think Blake Bortles has a very, very good game going into San Diego. Allen Robinson and Emmanuel Sanders against Odell Beckham and Amari Cooper. Odell Beckham is probably going to have an amazing game. Amari Cooper might struggle at times. He's the only one I'm a little iffy on, only because of the Desmond Trufant factor, and I like Amari Cooper a lot. But one-on-one with these man-to-man corners, last year he kind of disappeared. So unless he has taken his game to the next level, I'm not going to over-project Amari Cooper. I mean, he looked really good last week, though. That's a plus. But I do still think that, I know Allen Robinson might find the end zone for Brian. And then I do like Emmanuel Sanders a lot this week, too. But due to the fact, because I think Odell Beckham might go off because the Saints don't have any corners. And Eli Manning could just chuck it up to him all day. And considering he didn't do anything last week, he's due for one of those big weeks. And that is the main factor why I think I give the slight edge to Rob Coffey in the wide receiver matchup. Rashad Jennings, Thomas Rawls taking on Spencer Ware and Devonta Freeman. Now, I want to go to the Coffey side of the ball first with the running backs. Spencer Ware apparently missed practice, but they said he's going to play. Now, he has a sprained toe, I believe is the injury, but I do think that you might see a little bit more of Charcandrick West because Spencer Ware, over time, he was the workhorse. I like Spencer Ware in this game, but not what he did last week. I think we look at maybe like a 13-point game, and I actually think that Charcandrick West actually gets a lot more catches this week due to the fact that he's a little bit questionable. You don't want to overdo it, especially when Jamal Charles is still not healthy. And Devonta Freeman, oh boy. This is his final, I wouldn't say final audition, but in a great matchup against Oakland, this is what's going to happen, and I think we can make and jump to a conclusion what the Falcons' running back situation is going to be. But with that being said, I'm going to feel a little bit optimistic with Devonta Freeman. Going at Oakland's defense to me is still soft. They have a lot of new pieces, It doesn't look like it's going to work right now, though, guys. So Devonta Freeman, I actually think might have a solid game, but you see the 13-point projection right there. I think it hits just 13. I don't see Devonta Freeman during that like 4 week stretch that he had last week or last year, excuse me. Rashad Jennings and Thomas Rawls for Brian. I do like Thomas Rawls a lot this week. I think that he's going to get the boatload of the carries. Like I said, I think Christine Michael goes back to the bench. Rashad Jennings in New Orleans is another juicy matchup. When I'm breaking down the running back situations, I think Freeman has an average game. I think Spencer Ware also goes a little bit over his projections, but I really like Thomas Rawls, and I actually can see Rashad Jennings finding the end zone. And due to that factor in the matchups and the workload, and because I'm so big on Thomas Rawls, I'm going to have to give the running back situation to Brian, surprisingly. Okay, now the tight end situation, I'm not even going to talk much about it. Jordan Reed over Colby Fleener any day of the week. Colby Fleener, I didn't like. This might take some time for Drew Brees to find him. I just don't think Colby Fleener is that good of a football player, guys. I just think he's a tall doofus. Like he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. But needless to say, though, when you have a good quarterback throwing you the ball, it really doesn't matter. But I'm not a Colby Fleener guy. Give me Jordan Reed in this one. Now the flexes I know are up in the air, so therefore I'm not for both of these teams. It looks like I really like Theo Riddick. Tyler Lockett is a little John Brown, we don't even know what the health situation with him. I mean, obviously he's not on the injury report, but we don't know what officially is going down. But here are my keys to victory, though, guys. I'm going to start with Rob. Devonta Freeman needs to become Devonta Freeman for one. And now, because the flexes are such a mystery in this one, I think for Rob and Brian, the flexes need to hit. At least one of them. That could be the biggest difference in this one. Now, when we're talking about his guys that I think are going to be spectacular, Joe Flacco will definitely meet or go above the projections, and Odell Beckham could have an Odell Beckham type of afternoon. Let's now flip the script. Let's go to Brian. Keys to victory. Rashad Jennings and Thomas Rawls need touchdowns. Why do you say that? Well, they're both really not involved in the passing game. I do see them both getting touchdowns this week, though, which is why I kind of like the matchups, and I like what Brian is doing right there. The guys that could definitely seal the deal, though, for Brian would be Emmanuel Sanders and Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has a okay matchup because we can't disrespect Jason Verrett. And then Emmanuel Sanders, I think, has potential to definitely have a spectacular day. Due to the uncertainty of the flex positions, and due to the fact that I have a lot of Brian's players in my booms column, I got to give the victory edge to Brian in this one, guys. All right, third matchup of the week. Oh, baby. Shit. We got Jay taking on Vintage Harsh. Um, Before I break down the matchups, I'm looking at the roster. This is Oh wow, the lineup has changed. I mean, I looked at the matchups yesterday. I thought Harsh was trolling the fuck out of me with these like starters, but it looks like it has actually changed. Okay, I guess I actually will go down the rosters then. I just noticed the change on the vintage one. Anyway, sorry about that. Russell Wilson taking on Derek Carr. I'm going to have to go with Derek Carr. The matchup is not scary at all. Russell Wilson, he's definitely going to play. I didn't think that was ever in question when it's a division game. Those are extremely important. But I think that Derek Carr's matchup alone makes him very, 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 very good. Great play this week. I like Derek Carr a lot. Give me the edge to Harsh on that one. Mike Evans and Randall Cobb taking on Jeremy Maclin and Jarvis Landry. Now, I'm going to have my bold prediction again for Jarvis Landry. I think the first half and up into the third quarter, he's quiet. I'm going to say something like 4 catches for 30 yards. But once that fourth quarter hits, I think he is able to hit that 13-point projection because that's what Jarvis Landry does. Here you go, Jarvis. That's what Ryan Tannehill does. Just dumps it off to him. Jeremy Maclin, the matchup isn't scary, and the fact is, Kansas City might have to pass in this one, just like they did yesterday. And Jeremy Maclin was involved early and often. This might be one of those picks that Jeremy Maclin's like, oh yeah, he's all right. Like I guess he actually might turn out to be more than all right. So go to Johnny's side of the ball. I actually think that this might be a Randall Cobb game due to the fact that Minnesota's secondary is great over the top. So I don't see this being that big of a Jordy Nelson week, especially when he's coming off of an injury. I do see Randall Cobb finding the end zone in this one. Mike Evans worries me a little bit though. Why? P squared, Patrick Peterson. I don't think, other than the fact that he can use his size, Mike Evans really isn't that great of a route runner. He's not good at making a corner bite on any moves, which Patrick Peterson likes to do at times. But I don't see Mike Evans getting the best of Patrick Peterson in this one. Now, Jay, if it does happen, I will come out and say, okay, I was wrong about this matchup. And I'll say, all right, I'll give you credit on that one. But I don't. Obviously, you're not going to bench Mike Evans. I think that's stupid. It's ignorant. But I would temper expectations in this one. But because of the Randall Cobb, I like his matchup a lot. I think this wide receiver situation becomes a draw. Lamar Miller and LeGarrette Blount taking on David Johnson and Jeremy Langford. This is another tough one to call. Lamar Miller's going to get the workload against Kansas City, and Johnny's probably feeling good about himself because he's going to look at what Melvin Gordon and Danny Woodhead did. He's going to be like, oh my God, Lamar Miller's going to go fucking earth. And then LeGarrette Blount also having a fantastic matchup. To play it safe, I know David Johnson is going to have a really, really good matchup, and I like that. Jeremy Langford, I'm not so sure this isn't as easy of a matchup as people think, but needless to say, he is the workhorse. But this does look like a LeGarrette Blount type of week. I'm going to give the running back edge to Johnny on this one. Take Dwayne Allen taking on Julius Thomas. Well, okay. This is basically, for tight ends, you kind of just have to pick the matchup. I mean, that's the way I see it. Therefore, give me Julius Thomas. I don't think Dwayne Allen does that bad against Denver, and a lot of Colts players I don't see doing that bad against Denver. But needless to say, harsh with Julius Thomas. I like that matchup. Okay, I think we're still debating on flexes at this point, as I've seen a lot of changes. Julian Edelman and Mike Wallace taking on Arian Foster and Danny Woodhead. Edelman, Edelman right now is only projected at 10 points, obviously because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Um, I, he could be all right. I mean, the factor that plays into play here is Julian Edelman is at home. Mike Wallace is either a touchdown or nothing, but I like the consistent floor on the other end of the ball for Harsh with Danny Woodhead in this one. I think that if Jacksonville strikes first, there's going to be a lot, like I talked about, a lot of shotgun formations, a lot of dump offs, which is very good for Danny Woodhead. And then we take a look at Arian Foster, who's already questionable and didn't practice. So we don't know anything yet, so I'm not going to jump to any conclusions on the flex plays because of Foster's health, and there might be a switch with the vintage one. And honestly, on Johnny's side of the ball, I'm a little iffy on Mike Wallace. I know he scored last week, but like I said, I think becomes a Steve Smith senior week, not because I have him. But it's either going to be Mike Wallace or Steve Smith this week against the Cleveland Browns. I take a look at the defenses. Jacksonville is a very underrated play this week. Very underrated play. Now, let's break down the keys to victory. Jay, we have to see if Mike Evans actually produces because that could be the difference maker in this one. He needs to get the best of Patrick Peterson. Randall Cobb and Lamar Miller need to have very, very big games for Jay. Guys I do like on Jay's team, LeGarrette Blount. I did talk about Duke Johnson in my sleeper segment, or boom segment, excuse me. And if he's going to roll with Mike Wallace, well, man, you need that touchdown. Keys to victory for Harsh. Demaryius Thomas on the bench. I don't know if this is permanent. Somebody put up a statistic yesterday on Twitter that he hasn't had 100 yards in over 18 games. Or 13 games. Maybe I don't know. Julius Thomas needs to find the end zone because I do think that all these matchups become very, very close. Harsh is going to need the edge on the tight end to get a one-up on Johnny. Now, here we go, guys. I've got to predict a winner. For some reason, Johnny, I don't know why your matchups always make me think really, really hard. This... I'm thinking, man. I don't really know. Well, I'm gonna have to say this. Russell Wilson is hurt. I said I was not big on Mike Evans. Julian Edelman, I think, is average. And then if the guys I hated on Harsh's team really weren't that much, I just think that Johnny had better matchups. So if I'm going off of that logic, due to that fact, I think Harsh edges out like a 5 point victory against Johnny. The next matchup I'm going to talk about right here, guys. David having a fantastic week one, taking on Allen, who fought very valiantly with what he has to work with. Let's go to the games, guys. Ben Roethlisberger gets the start as Andrew Luck takes a seat, taking on Kirk Cousins. Okay, so with the quarterback matchups right here, um, David is obviously playing it safe. While I do think Andrew Luck actually still has a good game, he's going to play it safe, and the matchup is not scary for at all for Big Ben, especially Ben at home. I love it. Kirk Cousins, oh God. We saw what happened last week. Dallas's defense, though, is not is not a threat, and Kirk Cousins is still at home. But gotta go with Big Ben on this one. I do think that Cincinnati Pittsburgh games, both teams tend to strike back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be one of those good games. So give me Big Ben. Receiver matchup. Eric Decker and Larry Fitzgerald taking on Eli Rogers and Michael Thomas. Apparently, we've switched flexes and receivers. Whatever. I'm still going to take David. I think Eli Rogers has like a 10-point game this week. Michael Thomas, though, my bold prediction is that he finds the end zone. I don't see any other Saints receivers having huge games. I could be wrong, but I do think Michael Thomas might score. Larry Fitzgerald might have a serviceable game. I'd say around 10 to 12 points. Eric Decker seems to find the end zone every day. I guess we got to throw that rule into play, and because of that, give me David's wide receiver matchup. Ezekiel Elliott and LaShawn McCoy taking on Jeremy Hill and Amir Abdullah. Now, start with David. I was not impressed at all with Ezekiel Elliott last week. I really wasn't. Alfred Morris surprisingly looked better. I know it was week one. It could be rookie jitters. But Elliott just did not look that nice, guys. LaShawn McCoy, this is not a matchup you want, but I do think he does damage out of the backfield. Word is that Sammy Watkins actually is playing today. That could probably be good and bad for McCoy. I don't know. But Jeremy Hill and Amir Abdullah, I don't like Abdullah for this week. Jeremy Hill, I do see finding the end zone. Now it's time for me to make a pick. Okay, guys. While Elliott was not impressive, he did find the end zone. LaShawn McCoy and the Bills could be very, very sluggish in this one. I do think Hill finds the end zone, so then it would come down to Amir Abdullah and LaShawn McCoy. Wow. All right, guys, you ready? Draw. I can't choose it. I don't think Ezekiel Elliott was that impressive. The Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game, I think there's room for both running backs to produce. And LaShawn McCoy and Amir Abdullah, they might finish out equal, so I don't think these matchups in the running back department play a factor into who wins. Eric Ebron versus Jason Witten. Again, gotta say it. Draw. I think Jason Witten probably becomes the vocal point for Dak Prescott along with Cole Beasley again because he's looking over the middle of the field, what young quarterbacks do. Eric Ebron did score last week, and while this is a good matchup, I do think that when you look at the tight end column come Sunday, we see Witten getting like 11 points and Ebron getting like 13 to 14, so I don't think it plays that much into play. Michael Floyd and Latavius Murray taking on Golden Tate and Dante Moncrief. I'll start with Allen's team first. I did say that Golden Tate would have a really nice PPR day against the Tennessee Titans. So I do like that. Now Dante Moncrief along with T.Y. Hilton. I don't think that this automatically thinks, oh, Denver's defense, oh, these guys are deep threats, oh, they're going to get shut down. I don't see that necessarily. I do think that they're going to be playing from behind, which means they're going to have to produce. But I would temper expectations with all Colts guys this week. So let's go to David's matchup. Latavius Murray will find the end zone, but we're going to start seeing games where Latavius Murray is going to be very touchdown dependent because somebody else is going to step up, guys. Somebody else is going to rotate with him, whether that be Jalen Richard, DeAndre Washington. It's probably not going to be Tywan Jones, but I'll throw his name out there as well. It's going to start being a split, but this is a game where Latavius Murray scores. Latavius Murray is eventually what I was worried about come preseason, maybe in June. Latavius Murray is slowly diminishing into Jonathan Stewart territory. And then we have Michael Floyd. I love Michael Floyd this week a lot. Like I said, I think John Brown, there's something going on that the coaching staff isn't really putting on the injury report. And I think Michael Floyd becomes the vocal point, like they talked about 2 years ago when he became that third round pick in our fantasy draft. Due to Michael Floyd and Murray finding the end zone in this one, give me the edge to David. So, I'm looking at the defenses. New York Jets, this could be good against Tyrod Taylor and a hurt Sammy Watkins. But the Baltimore defense, a way to wake up really early in the morning to snag that one. Okay, so then it comes for me to take a pick. You got to give me David, but I will say again, this is another game that Allen loses very closely. Okay. We've got our second to last matchup for the week. Here we go, guys. History fact. It has been 6 years since these two teams have played. 6 years. You're saying, so how? Well, due to the fact that one of these guys has been in and out of the league in the Middlesex League and then coming back into this league and then taking years off for who knows what. And then myself. Since Matt's first year in the league, I have not played him. Ever since then, I have not played him. It's been 6 years since I've actually faced off against Matt. I realize that. So that's a fun history fact in this one. Now, let's talk about the matchups. Going straight down. Now, Matt, you know I don't pick my team to win because everybody's going to do that. But needless to say, I will give you an in-depth, just for you, buddy, an in-depth analysis on what both teams have to do for the win. Matt Stafford and Cam Newton. While both quarterbacks look to have promising seasons, you look at that San Francisco matchup and you just say, oh my God. Give the edge to Cam Newton. He's coming off a loss, a tough loss, which he played very good in. Got hit around. You're going to see him dancing after every touchdown. You're going to see him hyping up the crowd. You're going to see him running around like a kid. And come the fourth quarter, Derek Anderson will be in, but the damage will be done because Cam is going to have a Cam Newton game. Brandon Marshall and AJ Green taking on Antonio Brown and T.Y. Hilton. All right, here's what I have to say about this, guys. Brandon Marshall on a short week. Could that factor in? Normally I would say yes, but he didn't really do much in week one. In fact, him and Quincy Enunwa had the same amount of targets. And AJ Green against Pittsburgh could be deadly. Could be deadly. And both these guys got very, very promising matchups. Antonio Brown is Antonio Brown. T.Y. Hilton, however, not the most promising matchup against Denver. Now, here's what I'll have to say about the Indianapolis Colts. While T.Y. Hilton is still the number one and he's going to get the same amount of target shares, I don't think you can flat out say Chris Harris go on T.Y. Hilton. Because Andrew Luck can beat you with Dwayne Allen. Andrew Luck can beat you with Dante Moncrief. Andrew Luck can beat you with Doyle. He could beat you with even Philip Dorsett. So I don't see T.Y. Hilton necessarily getting shut down. And the thing about T.Y. Hilton that a lot of us are still under the assumption of is that, oh, he's just such a good deep threat. No. T.Y. Hilton has actually lined up a lot in the slot, over the middle. T.Y. Hilton, they're lining him up everywhere, which is very, very important, especially against Denver Broncos secondary. Now, because of that, I'm not going to say, hey, he's going to be very, very good. No, it's not what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, though, I don't expect when you just all the Colts receivers to get shut down. But needless to say, those matchups are very promising for those other guys on the other side of the ball. Keep that in mind. Okay, here we go again. Melvin Gordon and TJ Yeldon taking on Eddie Lacy and Frank Gore. Now, If I moved, well, obviously I can't because I start receivers. But I want to talk about Melvin Gordon first. Due to the loss of Keenan Allen, I do think that he's going to have a lot more opportunities. Now, they did update their playbook to fit him from like Wisconsin, meaning they run a lot of strong I formations, under centers, single back. They like to do a lot of that for Melvin Gordon to feel him comfortable in. But now, because of this, he's probably going to have to go in a little bit more shotgun sets, and they're going to run a lot of inside zones, and they're going to outside zones, possibly for Melvin Gordon. I do think the volume will be there for Melvin Gordon to have a serviceable fantasy day. The TJ Yeldon thing comes into play because it's very important because he's got Chris Ivory on the other side of the ball. Ivory, there's something going on medically wise. I wish the best for Chris Ivory. He's a player that I really like. You don't want to see anybody getting taken out for a serious medical issue. That's just a shame. But TJ Yeldon, this is a matchup. I know he didn't look that great last week. I mean, it was just like, what the hell, dude? Even though he did find the end zone, this matchup is not scary at all, and I do expect Jacksonville to be up. But with that being said, Lacy Bitch and Frank Gore. I do think Eddie Lacy to me is coming to the point where he needs a touchdown to have a serviceable fantasy day, and Frank Gore is Frank Gore. So with that being said, I don't give a slight edge to anybody in this one, and here's the reason being. I think that all these guys get enough volume enough to where when we look at the column the next day, there might be a 5, maybe 7 point difference for the running backs. So that's not that big of a deal. Then we go down to the tight end matchup, Gary Barnes and Virgil Green. All right, here's what I have to say about that, guys. Virgil Green probably is going to get a touchdown this week. Probably. Why? CJ Anderson is going to be rolling all over the place, and once they get into the red zone, Trevor Siemian might find him. He looked for him last week, almost had a touchdown. I kind of like it. But the Gary Barnage with Josh McCown, I need him. I need him to be Gary Barnage. Bottom line is what I'm going to say there. Due to that, I think Barnage has potential to be Barnage, but if I had to book something, it's a Virgil Green touchdown. So because of that, draw. Here's where things get dicey. Marvin Jones and Doug Baldwin taking on Corey Coleman and Chris Ivory. Corey Coleman still is targeted for number 1 duties. Chris Ivory, we don't know. Here's my guess of how Matt's going to play this. Chris Ivory is ruled inactive. He's going to go with the deep threat and Ted Ginn. I mean, you don't burn a waiver claim that early for a guy that you're not even going to use. That's just me. He's his own mind. I don't know exactly what the fuck he's going to do. But if I was a betting man, I'd say Ted Ginn is insurance for Chris Ivory this week. That's just my thought. Marvin Jones and Doug Baldwin. Marvin Jones has a very good matchup against Tennessee. The 10 targets is what you like to see for as a Marvin Jones owner. Doug Baldwin is just very, very good, guys. I guess it's official. And I like the matchup with Doug Baldwin going into Los Angeles. And because of that, he might be serviceable as well. And because of the uncertainty with Matt Morris, I'll give the flex edge to myself. All right. Defenses, you have to talk about Seattle's defense, guys. You have to talk about Seattle's defense against Los Angeles. I don't want to see what the hell happens. I really don't want to see what I'm praying. There needs to be like a fake punt involved. There needs to be like a fake punt pass. There needs to be like a reverse where Tavon Austin throws the ball. I'm like praying to God that happens because if not, oh my God, just give Todd Gurley the ball. Give Todd Gurley the ball. Don't even think about throwing it in the air because this could get freaking ugly. And Green Bay, I'm just using them because I don't like Shaun Hill, and I think that Green Bay will be up, forcing Shaun Hill to throw. I do see Green Bay getting some turnovers, but I'm very nervous about Seattle, guys. So, just for you, Matt, this is probably one of the longest matchups. Here's the keys to victory. Let's start on my side of the ball. Keys to victory, the running backs need to have over their projections. They need to hit in the teens. That's one thing that I like to say because the running back matchup on the other end isn't that appealing as well. The other key to victory, I would say, would be between Marvin Jones and T.Y. Hilton. One of these guys needs to hit and score into the end zone, and Matt Stafford needs to perform at a consistent level. Let's go to Matt's side of the ball. You see those two guys, Brandon Marshall and AJ Green? We know that Cam Newton is going to at least hit the projections. At least. That's worst case scenario. Brandon Marshall and AJ Green. Here we go, guys. These two guys need to hit. That's the number one key to victory because that puts a lot of pressure on my squad, meaning that my deep threats really have to hit and score as well. The other key to victory is for Matt. Lacy needs to score. If those three things happen, I think Matt is looking in a nice spot and he's going to be just enjoying the show. Matt, you already know I don't pick my game because we just don't do that over here. But I gave you the keys to victory. If those three things happen for you, I think you might look good in this one. On my side of the ball, we need some touchdowns due to the fact that Cam Newton's going to be putting up a lot. And that's my take. All right, it is time. It is time now to break down the last matchup of the week. This is a game I think might come down to one of the best games of the week. Oh my god! Max taking on Paul. So here we go. Matchup of the week, in my opinion. He's gonna be good. Carson Palmer. Taking on Eli Manning. Both of these matchups are so good. Oh my god. Palmer could light up Tampa. Eli Manning could light up New Orleans. I think there's more of a chance, though, that Eli Manning lights up New Orleans, guys. I think he finds Beckham. My bold prediction is Beckham gets 2 TDs. He had 3, I think, last year. Or maybe it was 2. I don't remember. Whatever. But I think Beckham finds end zone. I think Eli Manning finishes top 3 for quarterbacks. Therefore, give me Eli Manning. Jordy Nelson and Kelvin Benjamin taking on DeAndre Hopkins and Willie Snead. Excuse me. Kelvin Benjamin. I like this matchup a lot for Kelvin Benjamin. How could you not? Jordy Nelson, I'm not counting him out yet. I said maybe he doesn't score, but there's always a threat with Jordy Nelson finding the end zone. But then we look at Paul's side of the ball. DeAndre Hopkins will have a game. He was going to have a big game. Why? A little bit quiet. Now Brock Osweiler finds a defense that might give him fits. Bears don't have a great pass rush, and he could do whatever he wanted with the ball. I think Brock struggles a little bit early in this game, and he has no choice but to chuck it up to his playmaker, who will come down with the ball, believe it or not. So I like Hopkins a lot. This is definitely going to be a Hopkins week. Willie Snead, I don't think finds the end zone, but I think he has something like 9 catches for like 85 yards. I do think he's going to have to be the one guy Breeze is going to have to rely on because those corners on the Giants, very, very good, very underrated. Breeze is going to have to work underneath a lot. So if I had to pick the wide receiver matchups, this is very, very close. But I think it comes down to a draw, guys. I like Kelvin Benjamin's matchup. I like Hopkins a little bit more than that. And then it comes down to Jordy Nelson and Willie Snead. Nelson's got potential for a touchdown. Willie Snead, excuse me. I'm sorry that I sneezed in your matchup. Jordy Nelson does not against. I don't even know what I said. Hold on. Let me backtrack for a minute. Jordy Nelson has touchdown potential. I don't see Willie Snead scoring in this one. So due to the potential factor, I'm going to have to give a clean draw. Mark Ingram and Matt Forte taking on Doug Martin and C.J. Anderson. There's only one thing I need to see. God, I can't even talk today. Sorry about that. One thing I have to say with the running back matchups, C.J. Anderson. That's about it. You saw 27 points last week. You can expect probably the same thing. Doug Martin, I'm a little down on, though. Let's go to Max's side of the ball. Matt Forte will get rest this week. It's a short week. He had a lot of carries. Jets said in the preseason they wanted to rest him. I would not be shocked if Bilal Powell gets a lot more touches in this one. Mark Ingram, I don't even know what to say about Mark Ingram anymore. He's a decent player. Will he find the end zone? Maybe, but it's not going to matter. I give the running back edge to Paul because CJ Anderson will be the number one running back after this week. And when we're going to have to start talking about power rankings for position players, he's probably going to be the number one running back. And then we have Doug Martin. I think Doug Martin and Mark Ingram are kind of in the same boat. Not the greatest of matchups, but they need a touchdown to produce. Clev taking on Rob Gronkowski at the tight end position. Give me the Gronk. Jordan Matthews and Sterling Shepard taking on Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. This flex right here, difference maker, guys. Difference maker. The flexes, man, those are always the difference maker. I'm going to break it down really quickly. Jordan Matthews and Sterling Shepard, decent matchups. Jordan Matthews actually caught a touchdown from the outside. Wow. Sterling Shepard, you got to like what you saw out of the kid. You got to like it. He's now coming in against the New Orleans Saints at home. It's not a scary matchup at all, but my bold prediction is this is set up for an Odell Beckham game. We don't know. Is Cruz actually kind of back maybe, or does Shepard score? I think both have just they're pretty equal on the touchdown scoring ability. But then you saw D'Angelo Williams against last week, which scared the crap out of me. And Jonathan Stewart's matchup, oh my God. Jonathan Stewart will get his 16. D'Angelo Williams is a workhorse, and because of that, I got to give the edge to Paul. It's just, you're going to always, no matter what, even though if you have decent wide receivers, when you take the running back volume and really good matchups, you got to go with the running back volume, guys. And Cincinnati at Pitt, whatever. Houston at Kansas City, whatever. So we don't need to talk about that. And now it's time for me to make a prediction. With the winner. Yeah! Give me Paul in this one. Paul bounces back. There's a lot of firepower on this one. Max's keys to victory, really quickly. I think there's a lot more that needs to happen. Jordy needs to score. Shepard needs to score. I think Palmer will be fine, but if you can get that bonus with Clive Walford, that's just a bonus. I'm not going to say he needs to score because it's a tight end. Who the fuck cares about tight end? Now we're going to talk about Paul's keys to victory. CJ Anderson's already giving you the key to victory with the soft-ass matchup that he's going to go against. And it has to be a DeAndre Hopkins game, because if DeAndre Hopkins does not show up, well, then you have to look at the flex play. But I do think that's going to happen. Once again, guys, thank you for tuning in for the matchups. I'm going to have to try to get this up really early, so there might not be, I like the pictures and the fade-ins, the fade-outs, and all that stuff. This might just be an audio form for this week. Thanks again for tuning in, guys.